Hey, homebodies, Ashley here. Before we get into today's episode, I want to take a quick moment to share with you a new company that I have joined, and I am super excited to share more about it with you. KINS is Physical Therapy Reimagined. It is an all inclusive physical therapy app designed for convenience. Through the KINS app or their website, kins.com, you can check your insurance eligibility. Yes, KINS is in network with most major insurance companies. And you can enter a bit about the problem that you're currently experiencing and then get matched with an expert physical therapy provider. You can even book your first appointment online. Your appointments can be done 100% virtually from the comfort of your own home and will include one-on-one video appointments with a physical therapist and access to a personalized library of exercises, in addition to in-app messaging where you can ask your physical therapist questions at any time. If you aren't familiar with me and my background, I am a physical therapist with over 10 years of experience and specialize in geriatrics, chronic pain, and pelvic health. KINS Virtual Care is especially designed for those experiencing pelvic health concerns, including pregnancy-related pain, birth prep, postpartum care, bowel and bladder issues, pelvic pain, and many more. And if you're wondering if virtual pelvic health physical therapy can actually help, the answer is yes. Recent research has shown that virtual care for pelvic health can be just as effective as in-person care for a variety of conditions. And if you end up needing a referral for an in-person provider, we are happy to help you out with that. If you live anywhere in Massachusetts, you can ask for me, Ashley Drake, and a KINS representative will set you up with an initial visit where we will do a deep dive into your story, your medical background, and then we will come up with a treatment plan that works for you. Hope to see you there. Now on to the episode. Welcome to Haunted Homebodies, where Halloween isn't just a day, it's a lifestyle. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Sara, and we're your guides through the delightfully dark corners of comfort horror.
Grab your serpents and your sleeping bags.
It's time to levitate. It almost feels weird that we're recording this one in the morning. Like, this is such a nighttime movie.
I feel like the whole thing, like, we talked about my Sunday morning horror ritual, and now we are doing a Sunday morning podcast.
It's recording. Very appropriate. That's perfect for this.
Right? And it feels just about as unnatural as you think it would.
I hear kids playing outside. I hear the birds chirping.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about what is like definitely the darkest movie we've watched so far for the pod.
That's true. In some ways, it really is. It's kind of unexpectedly. It seems like it should just be this fun, witchy high school tromp. All right. So I was going to start off with giving a little plug to our new Substack.
Love it.
It's early days. It's linked in the description. I am going to be creating a weekly newsletter with your input, of course, Sara, and it's going to be called The Haunted Monthly. I just came up with that name and we're going with it right now because I couldn't come up with anything more creative.
Great.
Okay? It's going to be monthly. It's going to be haunted. The Haunted Monthly. So in that newsletter, it's going to have updates on the podcast, kind of our creepy current favorites, some of them creepy, some of them not so creepy, and then also information about, what's coming up in the following month and anything else that's going on with us. We'll also be maybe putting some like behind the scenes stuff, some more comfort horror content, because who can get enough of that? Maybe a little like haunted road trip at some point, haunted thrift shopping.
The dream, the true dream.
We'll be sharing it. We'll be sharing it all over on our Substack. So it's free to subscribe right now. We're also, going to be posting like some things related to current episodes. So head over there, join us. Tell us about yourself, and we'll see you there.
I can't wait.
Okay, so I had a odd, random, well, it's not super random little intro topic. So last week's episode, Cabin in the Woods, we obviously had a lot of thoughts on that. We love that movie very much. And after recording it, I didn't let it go. I didn't move on with my life.
That's great. That movie sticks with you, man. There's a lot to think about.
Right. And in my defense, we are recording this episode before I have before we've released the Cabin in the Woods episode, right? So I'm still like kind of in the mode of that. But I don't remember how I got here. It's really a twisted web of like my online activity. But I ended up on this Reddit thread about the Harbinger and like what we were talking about with the Fool kind of warning him and the Harbinger then trying to warn Hadley and Sitterson and them not listening. And so I wanted to share that with you and get your thoughts on it.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Okay, so this is the original post by this, what was it called? Username. I'm like, screen name? Oh my God. I just had like a total. I reverted back to AIM days.
As we should.
Right? We're just kind of always there. But the username is Spooky Maidment. Okay, so here is the post. It'll be linked in our show notes. Near the beginning of The Cabin in the Woods, 2012, the Harbinger tries to warn Hadley and his team that the Fool is not to be underestimated, but they're too busy laughing at the fact that they have him on speakerphone. Us too. Sorry, that wasn't in the post. The last line is, later the Fool ruins their entire operation. Okay, so then we have a beautiful picture of the Harbinger, and then a user named MyKnock33, that's probably a Reddit generated one, said it's actually more than that. The agency employees are disregarding the Harbinger's warning just like the kids did. They also loosely represent the various archetypes, and like the kids in the basement, I don't know why they're calling them kids, teens, whatever. They're probably like grown adults. Anyway, sorry, let me just finish reading it. And like the kids in the basement, the employees choose their fate through the betting pool. They list them all, so they all get released. I never put together that the ones that were released initially were the ones on the board.
Okay.
Which I haven't confirmed because I went back and thought and I was like, wait a second. Because you know how Hadley gets killed by the merman and he's like all merman obsessed. At first I was like, oh my gosh, did everyone who like betted on the monster get killed by that monster? And I was like, whoa, would that be cool? That totally didn't happen at all. But that's what I thought this meant at first. And then I was thinking, I'm like, would that have been a cooler way to do it? Or would that be too complicated?
Because I just thought it was like very poetic that
the merman
Hadley got to see the merman.
Yeah, right before dying.
Right.
According to this user, the theory is that the ones that they list on the board, which we know on that board, are not the entire archive of monsters that they have in their facility. So the ones that came down the elevators and were released were the ones on the board. So they essentially were choosing their own fate. Yes. So they were kind of like in the, I don't know, like prep floor, like waiting to be chosen, like depending on what the characters picked up in the basement. So they were all ready. So then when that didn't happen and Dana hit the master purge button, all of the ones that were on the board then come in. So they in the facility had chosen instead in the morning, had chosen their own fate by selecting what would be like, on the board.
I see.
I'm overthinking this, I think.
No, I could see it though, right? Because we don't have any idea how many monsters were in the facility. There could have been an infinite number of them.
Right, true. I thought that it was interesting. The part of the comment where they say like the employees are like loosely based on various archetypes. I kind of was like, I was like, oh, that's super interesting. But I couldn't quite get there. Like someone else commented, so that we had the jock, nerd, virgin, whore, and fool. So like the nerd, I thought would be Sitterson. Like the fool would probably be Hadley.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I couldn't really. I was like, eh. I don't know that they
Yeah.
fit those archetypes super well.
So here's what I'm going to put out there in the world.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think that we need to, in every instance, keep doing the sequel prequel thing, but I kind of would like to see a prequel for Cabin in the Woods. Show us how we
Mm,
got there. Tell us a little bit of the backstory.
that's true, because we can't have really I guess we could have a follow-up to see like how quickly did the gods destroy the earth, or did they just
It's,
enslave us? Are we post-apocalyptic?
it's
Like
just a 4-minute movie.
yeah, yeah, right. Smoosh,
Everything
smoosh,
just blows
smoosh.
up.
Yeah. But a prequel would be really cool if it was done
Yeah.
right. I
Yeah.
agree. That's a great idea.
Great. All right.
Well,
Putting it
if
out
you
there in the
haven't,
world.
yeah, and if you haven't listened, by the time this episode is released, the Cabin in the Woods episode will be our episode three,
3.
three, yeah, and that'll
Yeah.
be out. So if you haven't listened to it, have a listen. It's pretty fun. Okay, everyone, it's Ashley. Sorry for this abrupt interruption. I swear we will be on to today's episode topic very soon. But I still cannot stop talking about the Cabin in the Woods. So what I wanted to do is share with you the results of our community bracket over on Instagram for the Army of Nightmares Championship. We had so much fun seeing everyone's choices over there. Despite nearly being edged out by the formidable dragon bat, the Sugar Plum Fairy reigned victorious and was named the Army of Nightmares champion. A little background on the Sugar Plum Fairy: she has the body of a young appearing ballerina, but in lieu of typical facial features, she has a large mouth with multiple layers of teeth inspired by the lamprey. According to the Cabin in the Woods wiki on fandom, the Sugar Plum Fairy is thought to be inspired by the mind-bending works of Guillermo del Toro, or a nightmarish reimagining of the Tooth Fairy, or perhaps a ballerina from the Nutcracker. Based on what is shown in the Cabin in the Woods, we don't really know what the Sugar Plum Fairy is capable of, but we know one thing for sure: we do not want to find out. Glad to see that you all agree. Also, a shout out to my husband Chris, who, maybe with a little bit of peer pressure from me, completed his own bracket. And despite not knowing a whole lot about the monsters in the movie, he had a healthy fear of all of them, as he should, and he chose the Scarecrow folk, which I think is a pretty solid pick. Upon looking up the Scarecrow folk again on the Cabin in the Woods fandom wiki, I learned that they were most likely to be summoned by a haystack in the cellar that also had pitchforks. In the movie, we see the Scarecrow folk attack and kill the security guard Truman, who does manage to detonate a grenade, killing him and them simultaneously. What I don't recall is that after this, apparently the Scarecrow folk can be seen bringing themselves back to life. I'll have to look out for that next time I watch. I mean, pretty much what we've learned from all of this is, would we really stand a chance against any of these monsters? I don't think so. Thanks again to Chris and everyone else who participated in the bracket. And now let's dive into today's episode. So, quick content warning for today's episode: there will be brief mentions of suicide. So if that's not something that you want to hear about, please skip this episode. We are talking about The Craft. It was released on May 3rd, 1996. So, much like my previous episodes, this will be released near-ish its anniversary, and this will be 29 years. So we're approaching the big 30 milestone coming up.
Wow. And you know what? This movie kind of feels like it.
It is so 90s. That period of late 90s, early 2000s in cinema and the world at large is so distinct.
It is. It is. But to compare it to what we talked about 2 weeks ago, Scream, which came out the exact same year, this movie feels so much more dated.
That's very true. That's very true. They went over the top with like the quick cuts and the fashion, and yeah, it is
Truly.
a little time capsule of the 90s, which is great. There has been one sequel to this movie. Have you seen it? It was released in 2020. It was called The Craft Legacy.
I have not.
Ugh, I watched it. I was really disappointed, especially after waiting 24 years to make a sequel.
Yeah.
And it was a sequel in that it was called The Craft, and had a group of friends who were into witchcraft and,
And that was kind of it.
yeah, there's a couple
Hmm.
references, probably more for people who are like a little more invested in watching it, but I don't know. It felt like it was trying to be like, I wrote this down, like we're a cool movie, like we're not we're not a regular movie, we're a cool movie. Like it was trying to be hip and it did
Oh
have some good
no.
things. There was some more like inclusive cast of characters,
Hmm.
um, some discussion about coming of age as a woman and like things you can be bullied on and more current
Okay.
event type topics, but it felt just, I don't know, it didn't hit like The Craft
Hmm.
does. I feel like it was trying to fix some issues that maybe people had with The Craft, but doing it in a way that just felt like forced to me, at least.
Feels unnecessary. It feels like The Craft didn't need a sequel or a legacy, anything. Let it be.
Yeah, especially not like that. Like,
Hmm.
respect it and do something different, interesting, anything. Like we've
Yeah.
talked about. Generally, just leave it alone. But if you're gonna do it, like, either just really play homage to the
Yes.
original or do something really interesting and different.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my take.
Agreed.
Uh, so I was trying to look at like pop culture surrounding The Craft because it's like pretty big movie. Like it's definitely
Hmm.
was like relatively popular when it came out, but then became a cult classic and continues to be one. It's really loved by a lot of people. And the only pop culture reference I could find was that the song "Dark Horse" by Katy Perry was based on the movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. So then I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch the music video because I haven't watched a music video in a minute. And I watched it. And what? Okay. So there's not a single witchy thing about it. It is like seems like it was influenced by The Mummy. It's literally just her being like a Cleopatra like person and Egyptian-y things happening around her.
Oh, well,
Right?
Katy Perry. I
Yeah,
don't
she can do
know.
whatever she
I don't have a
wants.
lot of I don't have a lot of hope with that. Uh well, one other pop culture thing, but it's like almost too related, is that there is a song in The Craft by the Smiths, and Charmed used that song as their theme song. So like that's like a very like almost a too direct tie-in.
Yeah. I
They're
like
like,
that
"Hi,
though.
we're also about witches, and we are using the same
Do
song."
you remember that witchy movie about
Yeah.
sisterhood and witchcraft? Oh, here it is.
And I mean, I love Charmed, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
good by
I
me.
haven't watched a whole lot of it, but I think if I got into it, I would
Yeah.
be very about it. So Google lists The Craft as a horror slash fantasy. Close enough. I mean, dark fantasy, supernatural horror, horror. It definitely has horror elements. It has some scary parts, has
Hmm.
some darkness to it. It's not like heavy hand. I wouldn't call it a horror movie, straight up.
No.
It's
Mm-mm.
definitely not like that, but it's people have mixed reviews on this movie. Like I said, there's definitely a cult following, people who absolutely love this movie. It's rated 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 84% of Google users say they like it.
All right, stats.
Yeah, not bad. And I think
Yeah.
I kind of like agree with it. Like I like this movie. I don't love this movie. It's not my favorite of all time, but it certainly fits a vibe and it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not great performances, not great CGI, but it comes together.
I have to say, I kind of love this era of CGI. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it looks that bad to me at least, and it's just fun. And I think CGI of our modern era now is so overly trying to be
Hmm.
realistic, and I feel like makes it look more fake somehow.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Mm.
Hmm.
So The Craft is currently streaming on Pluto TV if you want to watch along with us. I don't have a specific memory of watching this for the first time, but I feel like it was with my sister Courtney. And Courtney, let me know if you if you remember this. But it's a movie that I associate with her. And when you watch a movie and whoever you watched it with or associate with, you just like think of
Of
them, and
course.
that warms my cold, dark little heart. So I think of Courtney when I watch The Craft, and that makes it more fun for me. How about you?
I definitely remember the first time I watched this movie because confession, I had never seen it before. So I just saw it for the first time this week.
No way.
It has been on my list for years to watch, and I just never got around to it. I know.
Okay, so what did you think?
I mean, it's a wild ride. It
Yeah.
is strange. I put the trailer on first just to get an idea, and it is such a 90s trailer. And I was like, I don't know, because sometimes the 90s trailers for like a certain way, but then the movie was very different.
Sure.
No, it's very the vibes of that very strange trailer.
Yeah.
And like it is I will have so many thoughts to share as we really get into the discussion, but it's not exactly what I thought it would be. And it's, I think, like pretty dark. Like I said this to you right when we got on today. And I think maybe there's a nostalgia element that where that's not talked about that much, but like this movie was really dark for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that you're coming in it fresh. So you must have like sat
Yes,
down and like really watched this movie
I
'cause you
did.
you
I
needed to pay
did.
attention. This wasn't a comfort watch for you. This was a first
No.
time watch. Oh, that's
I
so
mean, I did
interesting.
watch it in two parts because that's mostly how I watch movies these days.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's just how my life works. But yeah, I did really watch it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so excited. Well, let's get into a brief plot recap. So the craft follows the story of a high schooler named Sara, Sara with an H. Okay, everyone, we're on this podcast with Sara, no H, and that's how I introduced you to most people.
This is important. Thank you for
Very
doing
important.
that.
Okay, so Sara with an H is played by Robin Tooney. At the beginning of the film, she's transferring to a new high school in LA, and she catches the eye of three girls known around the school basically as wannabe witches, aka the bitches of Eastwick. Great movie reference there. So, who are the bitches of Eastwick? We have Bonnie, played by Nev Campbell, inadvertently talking about Nev Campbell twice in the first 5 episodes of the podcast. I'm a huge fan. Uh,
Nev and Skeet.
that is so true. Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
I ignore Skeet in this movie because his character is
I
so
know.
awful.
I know.
Billy has some redeeming qualities despite being a serial killer.
He's interesting.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
doesn't commit my cardinal sin of movies, which is being boring.
Ugh,
Just in this movie.
boring and awful. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
character development in this movie I don't think is great, but we'll get to
No.
that. So, Nev Campbell, not my favorite role she played, but I think she actually was good in this movie. I feel like her
Yeah.
acting in general is just pretty solid. So, Bonnie, played by Nev, is a shy, reserved girl, often wearing heavy clothing. She is wearing this clothing to conceal burn scars that cover her entire body. She's bullied, she's called a monster, and it's pretty clear that she also views herself that way. It's really sad.
Mhm.
Then there's Rochelle. She is played by Rachel True. Rochelle is a diver. She's on the swim team of sorts. And she is, mostly we just see her being like pretty consistently bullied by a racist teammate slash popular girl slash mean girl, Laura Lizzie. Great name.
Classic Mean Girl name.
Ugh, she's awful. She's awful.
Hmm.
And finally, we have Nancy, played by Fairuza Balk. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name correctly. I looked up, like, people love her. I was just reading about her. I don't know how to pronounce her name, trying my best. She's great. She's great in this movie.
She's
She
phenomenal.
She's so good. She is the leader of the group, described as being white trash by her own friends at one point. She lives in a trailer with her mom and her very stereotypical abusive stepfather, Ray. So, Sara, our main character, we find out she also has a troubled past and that she survived an attempt to take her own life at some point. We don't know if that's why they're having the fresh start in this new area. I don't think, but we don't really know a whole lot else about her.
Not a lot of backstory.
No, it's kind of established early on that she has some witchy powers, which is why the I can't stop calling them the bitches of Eastwick. They've kind of have their eye on Sara because they have been looking for a fourth in order to complete their circle, which will give them the power to perform magical spells. it turns out they're right. Sara is their fourth, and with the addition of Sara, they're able to perform magical spells. And of course, they use this power to seek vengeance on all of their respective enemies, except for Sara, who you could see it as seeking vengeance, but instead she just wants the boy who rejected and lied about her sleeping with him, Skeet Ulrich. What was his name? Chris, I think.
Yeah.
Just wants him to like her. And
It's
she's like,
like
I know it's really
really
lame.
disappointing.
I know. And we're like, yeah, it is really lame.
Yeah, correct.
You
You
are
have
right.
magic. This is your choice.
I know. I know. Because also, I'd understand the teenage girl urge to have your crush like you, but to have the
Totally.
boy who like viciously rejected you and spread rumors about you at your new school like you, like no, I would pick some like, the quarterback on the team or the hottest guy in school and have him like me and then be like, look at this, Chris. How do you
Like
like that?
literally anyone else. And also, she had only known Chris for like a week at this point.
I
Like,
know.
this was underdeveloped in my opinion.
Totally. And he
Yeah.
is not showing like you said, he's boring. He is creepy. Nancy alludes to him being like that she like basically gave him an STD or something at some point. Like because he
Yeah.
spreads bad things. Like there's bad blood there, and he's just clearly a jerk. So whatever. Not a great choice, Sarah with an H. So the other spells are working pretty good. They're taking down their enemies, but Sarah's noticing that the power is starting to go to their heads. Bonnie's not this quiet, nice girl anymore. She's getting kind of narcissistic now that like, she wished for her scars to be fixed. So it wasn't really a vengeance. She just wanted to have the scars go away, which is totally fair. They go away. She's feeling herself. I don't know. Kind of fair, but Sarah's like, I don't like you guys anymore, basically. And Nancy's meanwhile growing increasingly jealous of Sarah. It's not exactly clear why, mostly just because Sarah seems to actually be a witch and the other three are just kind of like
Yeah.
practicing witchcraft and, in a way like kind of leeching off of
Hmm.
Sarah's gift. It's so also like with their antics, three people have died, or at least two have died. Chris, the love interest, ends up dying at some
Yeah.
point, because not directly because they kill him, but Nancy basically like scares the shit out of him, and he falls off of a balcony and dies. And then two other kind of randos end up getting it. Is it rando? Who am I? Who's the third? So we see the homeless man get run over by the bus, which they think is their
Right.
doing.
There's Nancy's stepfather.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
Nancy, according to Bonnie and Rochelle, doesn't want to be quote white trash anymore, and they're like, that's why they saying that Nancy's like moody and like being mad at Sarah's because her spell isn't working, and
Right.
so then we see her kind of at home, and the stepfather's looks like he's did he hit the mom or was he about
He was
to?
about to. I think it's
Okay.
implied he has.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's really playing like by the abusive stepfather, drunk, deadbeat
Hmm.
rule book there. So he ends up having a heart attack and die. So people have died, and it's that commentary of like less dead kind of people. Like he was a jerk. Like Chris at one point had
Right.
attempted to assault Sarah.
Hmm.
Things like they're not great people, but Sarah's like still like we shouldn't be deciding who dies, basically.
It's like a pretty harsh punishment. Yeah.
Yeah. So then rather abruptly, Nancy, Rochelle, and Bonnie decide Sarah needs to die.
Yep.
Literally, they're like, we have to kill her because we have these newfound lives, this newfound power. We're really enjoying it, and she's questioning it. So we got to kill her. um, we'll talk more about that during the discussion piece because I don't know, it didn't work for me. But because Sarah is the only true witch, she ends up surviving this assault by the three of them. Bonnie and Rochelle are pretty quickly scared off by Sarah kind of revealing, the error of their ways, showing Bonnie with scars on her face and Rochelle with her hair falling out, which is the spell that she cast on the racist mean girl, to have all her hair fall out. Nobody felt bad for that girl. Let me tell you what.
No.
Except for Rochelle. Rochelle, I really like in general. I think she's like the one true sweetheart of the movie. She felt bad, but I was like, girl, no.
Which apparently was the actress's recommendation. That wasn't in the
Really?
script. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so sweet.
Rachel is the one who gave her the redeeming quality, I would call
Yeah,
it.
where she kind of after seemed a little bit more empathetic to
Exactly.
people.
Yeah.
But did she become not a racist? Like she's very clearly um a racist
Right, because she gets
person.
the one scene. Now I'm going into too much detail. She gets to the one scene where she's like, "Oh, hi, Rochelle. How are you?"
Yeah, it's a redeeming moment. Great. Her hair fell out and now
Seriously?
she's great. She's just a great person. Um, but Nancy has been torturing Sarah during this Act 3 scene in like one of the most disgusting montages in cinema to me. Maggots everywhere, snakes everywhere, tarantulas, everything. It's just awful. But Sarah finally, in her, I guess, transformative moment, decides like I'm gonna really step into my power. And they have a like very witchy smackdown. Of course, Sarah comes out on top. Um, and then it's just kind of like cuts to Sarah. I guess they're leaving town again. They're like, you know
Yeah.
what? This isn't working out here. We gotta go again. And Sarah's like packing up the car. Bonnie and Rochelle like awkwardly walk up to her and they're like, sorry, we tried to kill you. And Sarah's like, it's okay. Uh, basically. And then they're, like, we don't have our powers anymore. Like, do you? And Sarah's just pretty vague about it. And then, after their like very fake awkward apology, they're walking away and they're like kind of talking shit, being like, I bet like she doesn't even have her powers. And this is where Sarah draws the line. She's like, I will forgive you for trying to kill me, but say I'm not a witch anymore. And, she conjures this stormy scene and has this huge tree branch almost fall down and squish him.
Terrible.
And then, right. And then says, yeah, don't cross Sarah with an H. And then she says something like, you don't want to end up like Nancy. And we found out that Nancy is now institutionalized and just really like she's being like restrained, medicated. Yeah. It's pretty dark, you say. And that's where we end.
The end.
Okay, let me start by saying I like this movie. I feel like this is the first episode where we're being like kind of snarky.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that I don't like this movie. I do like this movie.
Let's establish that.
I think it's a fun movie. I think it's got some really great elements. I totally get why some people love this movie and watch it. I watched it. I've watched it several times. I think it certainly fills a certain like comforting hole in like the creepy heart. And if you resonate with witchcraft, like it has a lot of fun montages and scenes about that. What I had some issues though. So I'm gonna get into them a little bit.
I'll be right there with you.
I think you probably will. The representation of like mental illness, suicidal ideation, institutionalization, even like homelessness was just like there were just a lot of also just stereotypes thrown around. Like instead of developing characters, they just were like, let's like Google greatest stereotype. We don't even have to Google. Let's just think of what would we think of when we have a character who does X. I felt like they were putting in these really heavier themes and then kind of being like a little almost flippant about them.
So I feel like there is a version of this movie that could have been made incredibly well with just a little bit more character development and nuance to the characters.
Absolutely.
And they just missed the mark almost every place they could have on those two things.
Agreed. I think the lack of character development is something that as I watched this through a more critical lens this time, it really jumped out to me because I feel like the only character that I really felt like I got to know was Nancy. But then I also think that they made some really weird choices with Nancy. Like Nancy seems like you understand why she is troubled. Okay, she's
Mm-hmm.
definitely got a bad home life. Um, I think her character would resonate a lot with individuals who grew up with like a more goth look and kind of how that could
Yeah.
ostracise
Mm-hmm.
you in high school and her just like self-acceptance and like wildness with it. Like she literally has like a noose in her locker.
Yeah.
Like she is weird and goth and she's owning it. And like I love her for that. And then she has these like really sweet moments where she's like really supportive of her friends and then just like sees red and is like, I'm gonna murder you. And I don't know. It felt like
Yes.
a little bit of a stretch for me.
Very much so. And I mean, listen, it perhaps they are leaning into her being mentally unwell, but again, like you said, with like stereotypes and without any nuance, and it just let me say this. I think she's a fantastic villain. Had
Yeah.
we done our previous podcast's lovable villains episode after I watched this movie, I'd probably put her near the top. Like she
Yeah.
is over the top. She is campy. She is so much fun, which is how I like to see a villain. Uh, but we're also like she's not just a side villain. She's one of the main characters of the movie. She's part of this group of friends and it's just almost not believable. Like it's not even believable why Rochelle and Nev Campbell's character, whose name I can't remember already, Bonnie, why Rochelle and Bonnie are friends with her in the first place. Like
Right.
it's not developed.
No, no, I totally agree. I really wish that this movie had made, like you said, a lot of different choices, but particularly with Nancy, I feel like she has the opportunity. Like, I feel like the Nancy should have been the main character.
Yes.
Sarah is so boring.
Oh my
Her
God.
transfer, talk about boring.
Yeah.
Ugh, I could not care less about like what happened to her. Like, there are so few times that I felt anything for her, had any sort of investment in her story. And I wish if they still chose to have her be the main character and have Nancy be the quote unquote villain, which I agree. She is fantastic. She is like the best part of this movie,
Yes.
hands down. I wish there had been a better arc with Sarah's character, like an actual arc more so than just being like, embrace your power.
Yeah.
And that Nancy and her, instead of it being like, oh, we're going to go kill you, had maybe done the creepy montage to be like, we're going to like scare you out of town. And then had somehow
Yeah.
turned it around and Sarah, being a more developed, interesting character, was able to, like she did with Bonnie and Rochelle, maybe show them like, this is kind of the impact of what you're doing and how it could feel, and do a similar thing to Nancy to be like, power isn't everything. But instead, we're left with this like, power is everything and only Sarah has it. And it drove Nancy insane. And now she is in this like stereotypical, terrible depiction of what someone with, I don't know, they're not even establishing necessarily if Nancy is mentally ill.
Right.
But, that whole scene at the end is just like, okay.
And here's the other thing. So much of what I read about this movie and why people love it is that it's viewed and what they were going for when they were making the movie is it's viewed as this story of like these high school girls finding like empowerment. And I just don't see that. Like, yes, kind of. They do find it, and obviously Sarah finds it in the end.
Yeah.
But the other ones, like, they find it, but like really the wrong way, as in it doesn't, they don't have it at the end. They're in a worse place at the end than they were at the beginning. Like even Bonnie and Rochelle, they're fine, but like it's implied that Nev Campbell, who Bonnie used to be such a nice girl, and she's still kind of a bitch at the end.
Right. And she's also like buttoned up again, which makes me think that maybe like her scars came back. And like to me, more empowering plot line. And I'm not saying that anyone who deals with like a similar situation where they have a part of their body that they don't like Nev Campbell, like needs to accept themselves. But that would be a much more empowering storyline than, oh, I'm feel better about myself because I quote unquote, fixed my appearance. And now I'm attractive to men. That's not doesn't feel empowering
Yes.
to me. And Rochelle, they don't really like. I feel like she has the least kind of change. She's pretty much just kind of nice. Nice. She seems like along
Yeah.
for the ride, like getting
Yeah,
dragged
yeah.
around by Bonnie, who is just dragging her around based on what Nancy's telling them to do. There's no clarity as to like why, if they ever liked Rachel. What's her name?
Rochelle?
No, no, no. Sorry, I'm just getting off of Sarah. I'm getting all
Yeah.
turned around with using the actress and actors.
Sorry.
All the names. No, no, no. I'm doing the same thing. But like I don't even like as a friend group. Like, do you find that friend group believable? Like, do you think that they ever really liked Sarah? They turn on her so fast to the point of like murdering her when they were like supposed to be having this like rah rah girl power witchy coven.
So it is established immediately. They only want Sarah because Bonnie sees her twirl her pencil magically.
Right.
And they're like, oh, it's our fourth. And the almanac told them that somebody would be arriving that day. Like, they don't seem to make an effort to get to know her. But I also don't see why the other three girls are friends outside of this. And hold on, have we established who is this movie written by?
Mm,
I'm gonna
we have not
Google it.
established. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. So this was written by two men.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that explains some of what we're talking about here. Like, it's not a nuanced portrayal of female friendships, which are not perfect
Right.
because we're all human. I mean, I will not give any spoilers for those of you out in the world who are still catching up on the most recent season of The White Lotus, which you watch?
I watched some. It like gave me anxiety. I had to
Oh,
stop.
it's like that's especially this season is like nothing
Oh,
but anxiety start to
yeah.
finish. But
Oh
there's a
God.
very interesting plot of which many articles have been written about this trio of female friends who have been friends for years and years. And it, in some ways, without diving into it, seems very toxic. But there's also like it's this very nuanced portrayal of friendship that I really enjoyed in the end. Whereas this is just like they're like, oh, girls are bitches to each other and it's fine. Like
Yeah,
that's
they'll
how I
turn on
feel
each
about it.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't really care about each other. Because I feel like Nancy justifies them wanting to kill Sarah by saying, like, well, Sarah had tried to cast a spell to not let Nancy do harm to herself or others.
God
Seems
forbid.
legit. Seems legit. She wasn't like, I want her guts to be ripped out. She was like, just like stop messing with people, including me. And so that was a betrayal of the coven. So then they're like, we're gonna betray you harder
Yeah.
and kill you dead. And also they're like weaponizing her suicide attempt, being like, we're gonna frame it as
Yes.
a suicide because we're also gonna frame you for killing Chris and saying that was your fault. And now, it has I don't
I
it
know.
just had so much potential, and like I said, in the sequel-ish, the 2020, The Craft Legacy, I think they tried to make the friendship portion a bit more nuanced and
Okay.
believable, but and like less girl against girl and more like girl lifting up girl, which I appreciate, but
But I would
almost less
also,
nuance in
yeah.
the other direction.
It's like too much that.
Right, where I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I did want to bring up something that you put in our notes. Practical magic, which we
Yeah.
talked about in our first episode, like really does cover like the themes of friendship and sisterhood and not from the beginning. It's not in this just like everybody's happy all the time. Like the women of the town hate the sisters. But in the end, they all come together and it like feels real. And it's
Yeah.
such a nicer way to portray that.
Yeah, and there's real support, real family conflict, like intergenerational conflict, like you said, conflict in the town. There's layers, but there is this underlying, like, we will always be there for each other, even when I don't support what you did,
Yeah.
or we're like in deep in the shit together. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't leave me with any fuzzies, which is what we want. I wanted more warm fuzzies, and this movie just I don't know. It feels nostalgic and time
Yes,
capsule-y, and I love the character Nancy. Amazing performance by Fairuza Balk.
truly.
So
She
good.
is so much fun. She brings everything to this movie.
Absolutely. She's perfect. Perfectly cast, perfectly portrayed. She did
Hmm.
everything. The times where she supposed to come off empathetic, I believed it. The times when she
Yep.
was supposed to come off a little bit unhinged, I believed it. She just has such range and absolutely crushed it. And I
Yes.
loved her. And then to end on some more positive because we've kind of been like going pretty hard on this movie. And like we said, we do enjoy this movie. We just there's so much potential that
Yes.
we just wish could have been a little bit
Yes.
different. Um,
Exactly.
there were some things that scared me a little bit. Like I did find I like not horror, not super scary, pretty dark, but like the snakes portrayed throughout this movie. Oh my gosh. I don't know if this truly is the reason, but I have had like a series of different anxiety related dreams. So when my anxiety is a little bit high, I'm really worried about something, I'll have a specific trope of a dream called
Oh.
anxiety dreams. So, when I was younger, it was shark attacks. I was getting just
Yeah.
eaten by great white sharks
Hmm.
routinely. And then at some point, the great white shark thing like completely stopped, and it became snakes. And
Oh.
it's awful. It still happens rarely now because my anxiety is much better controlled. Thank you, Lexapro. But um, and therapy. Everyone go to therapy. Anyway, the snakes will be like everywhere. Everywhere I turn, everywhere I step, falling from the ceiling, falling from a tree I walk under. I'll turn up a log or trip over one, and there's snakes everywhere. They're just everywhere, everywhere. And it's absolutely terrifying. And this
Oh.
movie certainly demonstrates that. Also, like Indiana Jones, but I don't know if I
That's what
had,
I was picturing. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I had seen that at that time. I feel like I only recently had watched all of those movies for the first time. But I mean, also just snakes tend to be like creepy and something that we either love or hate. And you are a snake lover.
I really like snakes. I did those were not the scary parts of the movie for me. I mean, it's a lot. It is a lot. But I think
Yeah,
I would have anxiety about like accidentally stepping on the poor snakes more than
sure.
anything else in that
Oh,
moment.
I thought you just meant if there was that volume, it would be like
Yeah.
scary. But yeah, no, you've like held snakes. You love
Oh
snakes.
yeah. Yeah.
Are you ever going to
I
be a
heard them a
snake
lot.
owner?
I don't think so.
Also, just please don't. I won't come visit you again.
Yeah. Also, like my cats would probably try to eat it. That's
That's
not.
so true. They would have a
Yeah.
fight there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in terms of other creepy parts of the movie, I think the part where Nancy, this is a pretty iconic scene, but the part where she floats across the room when she's like messing with Chris and eventually leads to him falling off the balcony and dying. But like the witchy boots, like the tips of her boots dragging across the floor.
It's really good.
It's really well shot. It's really that whole scene I think is creepy and well done.
Yeah. I actually recognize that scene. So it's iconic and has been shown in so many ways. But the series Agatha All Along from earlier this year had a really cool end credits scene that was just it was like portrayals of witches across media. I
Oh,
love it. You should
fun.
just go watch the end credits.
Okay,
I
I
love
will.
them, and this they have a scene or two from The Craft and so many other things. It's really cute. I just adored it.
Oh, that's great. I will definitely check
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah.
Um, I think the other part of why this movie is not in our top hits here is that we tend to like things that are like a little bit campier, a little bit funnier, a little less dark maybe. That's just our
Yeah.
personal preference. There were a couple times in the movie where I was like, is this trying to be funny? Am I supposed to laugh? Because like I am. The first time is like right off the beginning. The projected to be homeless man has
Hmm.
standing outside the door and startles Sara, and he's holding a snake, so it's just like layering the creepiness. And he just says, "Found this out back. Do you want it?" just find it so funny. Like, it's so pure to me. I'm just like, how sweet. Creepy, but sweet in a way.
And what was he supposed to represent in this movie?
I don't know.
Like, I don't understand. Like, he doesn't appear to be like a harbinger. He's just a random man that has climbed to the top of their very steep driveway to offer a snake to this random boring character. Like, what?
I don't know. Maybe there feels like there is some, like, he's supposed to represent something. Maybe he is a harbinger in a witchy way. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he kind of cracked me up. Felt like he deserved better in the movie. But anyway, the other line that really got me was, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the way through the movie. And Nancy is, I think they're invoking the spirit or something. I don't know exactly what that means, but basically they're trying to call in more power. And the witchy shop owner has warned them, like, this, you shouldn't be doing this, especially like knowing their personalities. She's like, This is not for you. But Nancy's, of course, like, we're going to do it. So they're on the beach, and Nancy, of course, is kicking us off because she is the de facto leader of the group. And she says her, like, whatever chant they're doing, and says, powers of air and invention, hear me. And Bonnie's like in the background, us. And Nancy is like, hear us. And then they all say it correctly. And I don't know, there's something about that I thought was like so funny. Such a funny way to portray that scene. Show a little personality from Bonnie.
Yeah. But it was so like heavy-handed, like so much else in this movie that was like, by the way, Nancy only cares about herself, and we're not gonna let you figure that out as a viewer. We're gonna straight up tell you.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
So before you talked about, like, we don't get a lot of warm and fuzzies from this movie, and I agree. And we've had a lot of criticism, but one big warm and fuzzy scene for me that is genuinely a reason I think I could come back to this movie is the slumber parties.
Yeah.
They're sitting around watching Bewitched, and then there's the scene where they play light as a feather, stiff as a board, which in this movie, is like a proof that magic is real for them. But we all played that. Like, I have such distinct memories of slumber parties literally doing that, and like the vibe was really there on the slumber parties, which is the vibe of the podcast, and I did love that about the movie when they were like actually developing the friendships a little bit and leaning into that part.
Right. And I think that was part of my criticism earlier of being like, did they actually like her? Were they actually friends? Because those scenes do totally make it seem like they're developing this real bond and friendship, and they're all supporting each other and just like having a really fun time. I totally agree. I love those are the best scenes in the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was adorable.
I love it. All right. Well, that is it for today's comfort horror recap. Sweet dreams, homebodies.
And now it's time for your bedtime story. So I wanted to dive into a little bit of behind the scenes information. I do think one of the reasons why people love this movie so much is that in many girls and women's lives, at some point we got a little into witchcraft, right? We got a little curious about it at the baseline level. And one of the things that this movie did make a really big effort to do was make that aspect of it as realistic as possible for those people who do practice and who are really into that. So in order to do that, they hired this woman named Pat Devin, who is a real life witch. She's a Wiccan elder. Her titles crack me up. So she's what's called a Dianic elder priestess. She's part of a coven. And then here's what cracks me up. She also served as the public information officer for an organization called the Covenant of the Goddess in Southern California, which is one of the largest Wiccan organizations in the U.S. But like public information officer.
They're just like another corporate.
Exactly.
Corporate list of employees.
They've got their bureaucracy just like everything else.
I love it.
That was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she was brought on as a consultant to bring some level of authenticity. They wanted not only that realism, but they also wanted to be respectful to this group of people. And I think that's fantastic. And I don't know enough about Wiccanism or witchcraft to have any idea if they did that well, but it does not seem like that is something that people have identified as a problem in the reading that I've done. Like, they did that part well. They found her through this local occult shop, and she agreed after kind of meeting with them and trying to understand the themes of the film and what they were trying to do. One of her biggest recommendations was creating a fictional deity. So they pray to Manon, or they always pronounce it in this like really specific way, Manon.
Yes, they do. You're right.
Yeah. So I'm always like, is it just Manon? And yes, it turns out it is.
Manon. It's just Manon.
Well, there is a sidebar. There is a witch character in a very popular, currently popular and favorite fantasy series of mine called Throne of Glass, whose name is Manon. And I actually should have looked up before this whether that was an homage to this movie. I feel like it might have been. She's great. Yes. Anyway, so she recommended doing a fictional deity instead of like naming real gods or goddesses, and like kind of dealing with how people might feel about that, or kind of, misrepresenting something that people are really passionate about. So it let them like really kind of dive into the powers that Nancy and Sara were getting and how the girls were using this without, risking offending people or being inaccurate to what these other deities are supposed to be able to do. They took this very seriously.
I was gonna say, this was really interesting because I respect this. I love that they did this, but like, was this all that they did? In terms of developing portions of the movie.
Exactly.
They're like, no character background. We'll only get to know the characters through like vague interactions and like little snippets of backstory.
The plot is going to go from 0 to 100 to 150 to 25 for no reason.
But the witchcraft is going to be on point, which I do feel like is a part of this movie that's really cool and is really well done. So it makes sense that they invested so much into it
in this one aspect of it.
They nailed it. I mean, good for them.
Yes. Oh, all right. So Pat Devin, she also she wanted to emphasize like core Wiccan values, which I think is great, right? Because there's a lot of, I think, misconceptions about witchcraft in terms of what the people who identify as practicing witches actually do versus what a lot of media has suggested they do, or what people think, right? Like, they always think of it as being evil. She wanted to emphasize the ethical use of magic. I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm not like entirely sure the film succeeds in this way, but she was the one who brought in this idea of the law of threefold return. So they talk about that in the movie, where the shop owner of ambiguous ethical and national origin, maybe she's Spanish, I'm not sure. She talks about that, where essentially like when you put magic out there, it's going to come back to you times 3. That came from Pat's guidance, that your actions have consequences, which did become a central theme of the film, but for some characters more than others, I would say. So in overall, I think it's agreed by people who know what they're talking about that the craft stood out from other supernatural films in treating witchcraft with some care and complexity. I think that really helped it resonate with practicing witches and to the audiences who, like we said, like we all were into this a little bit at some point.
I'm still into it a little bit. I have my tarot cards, and it's okay. You can help me on the podcast. I'm a little bit witchy. I'm pretty low key about it, but no, I think it's fun.
I love that. I mean, ask me about my garden. I think, but there's so many nuances and there's so many aspects to this idea of connecting with nature. And I mean, there's whole podcasts about witchcraft. We don't need to pretend we're experts here.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was great. I thought that in a movie that could have been developed in so many ways, they really took their time on this. And I think that aspect of it really paid off. And my guess is that is one of the reasons it has such a lasting legacy as well. Yeah. So Pat Devin, thank you so much for what you brought
Great job.
to this
Great
film.
Job. And actually her idea with the, what was it called? The rule of three?
The law of threefold return.
Excuse me. Okay, well, I'm not going to remember that, even though you just said it. But that could have been a super interesting way this movie could have gone if instead they became what they feared, right? So maybe Sara became this like salacious, boy crazy version of herself. Maybe Bonnie actually becomes a monster. Maybe Nancy gets so rich that then bad things start happening because of it. I don't know
what I thought was going to happen, by the way.
Yeah.
100%.
Rochelle's hair actually falls out. I mean, like, Rochelle's character, like, she really doesn't do much wrong throughout this. But still, it's like something could have happened there where, like, it actually comes back more so than that blip of, Sara shows them kind of their true faces in the mirror for a second, and then they're like, and run out.
And they run out, so they're no longer trying to actively kill her, but at the end, like, it's clear they haven't actually developed, and like there aren't real consequences.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll stop ragging.
Pat, you tried, and we appreciate you.
The potential was there. Maybe someday. This is actually a movie where I'm like, okay, so you tried to kind of reboot it. Like, try again, maybe, try again.
Hire us as script consultants.
Yeah. Well, I'm like the biggest flop. Like, we're totally those, Chris jokes about that. Like the people who watch sports and they have like one hand down their pants and the other in a bag of potato chips. And they're like, I would have caught that pass. That's us. We've never written a movie script.
Yes.
I'm like extremely novice fiction writer who's never completed a manuscript. But we would kick the shit out of this already developed idea, and with 2020 hindsight would nail it.
We've got this, you guys.
Yeah, we got it. Stay tuned for the Craft Legacy 2.
Haunted Homebodies.
I love it.
It's just a slumber party the entire time, actually.
Oh my gosh, I would watch for sure.
Yes, as we play light as a feather, stiff as a board, we bring out the Ouija board, and all the other witchy things we used to do at slumber parties.
Oh, amazing. I'm there. We'll just do that anyway sometime.
Yeah.
Watch party.
Can't wait. Right,
let's sign off.
All right. Well, Ashley, what are we talking about next week?
Sara, next week's episode is juicy. We're going to be talking about The Mummy. We'll see you there.